Okay, welcome to Emotionally Unavailable. So you go by B?
Yes, I do
Okay.
prefer B, thank you.
Okay. Yes. And it is so nice to meet you. I was just reading your profile again before I hopped on, and it's a good and a bad thing whenever this happens, but you had one of those profiles that made me think of 100 things at once. And I'm like, usually I kind of feel into the starting point. I'm like, where should we start today? And I was like, oh, I want us to no, maybe there. Like, I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one." I'm gonna try not to talk too much because 'cause I'm so excited. Because boy, you get me talking about astrology in any way, and so
I
I was
know.
curious a few things about, like, you as a person. I
Yeah,
would like to know what your big 3 are, if that's okay,
abs
and, like, what your home dynamic was like growing up, like how many siblings you have, all that kind of stuff.
cool. Well, I love the question of the big 3. I love being in spaces now where people, like, know what the hell you're talking about. I'm like, "These are my people," but I'm a Taurus sun and Sagittarius moon and rising.
Oh,
So, yeah.
wow.
Yeah, the energy of, like, there's a lot going on, that's the double Sagittarius signature. It is a blessing and a curse, right? Because it's, like, so much happening, but, yeah, and growing up, I was raised in Michigan, kind of in a, middle of nowhere, small town type of feel, and I grew up with mom and dad and an older sister who's 3.5 years older than me, and we were I don't wanna say, like, middle class, probably lower middle class. They were my mom waited tables and my dad worked at Kroger, which is a grocery chain up there,
Yeah.
and, yeah, so we got by okay. Did a lot of hard labor in the winter in terms of keeping the wood stove going and all of that, but I think the biggest gift from my upbringing was this, like, close relationship I developed with Mother Nature. We had a little bit of land. I mean, my dad was a hunter. And so, most of my time, it was so different than this generation's. It's like we were outside all the time. It didn't matter if it was winter, whatever. So that was definitely the biggest gift from my upbringing.
Yeah. Oh, it was. We didn't even know. How old are you?
I'm 39.
Okay, yeah. I'm 46, but I could see definitely you were right
hmm
in that millennial era.
Yes, yes, the elder millennials, what's up?
Yep. Yep. Wow. Okay. First, for the audience, just in case you're new to astrology, your big 3 are your sun, moon, and rising.
Oh, yes.
Um, okay. I'm trying to get better about that because I've had a couple of bitchy complaints about language that people can't understand. So anyway, okay. I am a lover of astrology and a student of astrology, but I am nowhere near expert astrology level. So I'm going to ask you this because I like to get confirmations of things like as I'm learning. My experience with Sag Moon is mamas who had like OCD almost, like very particular,
Mm.
like pretty critical, is that accurate?
Yeah, super accurate, and, I've got some other interesting signatures, and my mom does as well, based on what I know of her birth chart, which we assume is accurate, but she's a 29-degree Scorpio and has
Oh,
Pluto on
shit.
her. Yeah. And, I mean, she was going through her own stuff when,
Exactly. Yeah,
you
that's why I
know
was hesitating to ask, 'cause, I'm it was a journey for me, I will be honest, that I had to go through intense periods of anger before my own healing, before I could get to a place where I'm like, and they did their best. It was a
Mhm.
journey, but now I hold both perspectives pretty evenly that you did your best and your best fucked me up really good. So that's that. And there's no hate there. It's all love. They're all gone now anyway, but like still, you got to work through that shit anyway. Have you found, oh, see, this is why, it's too interesting. You're going to have to come back. Okay. So let me ask you this. When did you get into astrology?
So I have been studying astrology for probably like 7 years now, and
Okay.
it came during a period where so a little bit of backstory.
Yes.
When I was 18 years old, for the astrology listeners out there, I have Pluto in my 10th house and Neptune in my first. So
Mm.
this call to like do something bigger than myself was really, really strong in me from a very young age. And, also in the ancestral thread for me as well. So my grandfather was a POW in World War II. And anyway, long story short, I felt called to join the military when I was 18 years old, and I ended up deployed to Afghanistan in 2011, 2012, and it really messed me up. I was a combat medic, and we were serving in a very active combat area right on the border of Pakistan, and eventually came home and struggled with post-traumatic stress and alcohol abuse and, all the things that kind of come along sometimes with that unhealed trauma.
Yes.
And I went down like a rabbit hole of healing because, the traditional sort of conventional Western medicine things were not really helping me. I was doing the counseling, taking the meds, doing everything that the VA told me I needed to do. And it's still, I still was struggling. And one thing I have been able to give verbiage to now, I couldn't then, but what I was really struggling with the most was this lost sense of purpose. And, I truly felt like at the ripe age of 25 that the biggest thing that I would ever do in my life was already behind me. And I was sort of starting to kind of awaken to other ways of being, right? I had a pretty solid yoga practice, and that kind of led down into some other rabbit holes as it does. And I stumbled upon a podcast, and they were interviewing an astrologer. And I was like, huh, I really like, I just feel like her energy's good. I kind of resonate with this. And I ended up booking a reading with her. And it was
Oh.
wild, Melissa. It was like, this woman's a perfect stranger. I've never met her in my life, and I feel like she knew everything about me, right? And it's like, I think at one point I was like, are you like a psychic, or are you really pulling
Right.
Yeah. I'm like, but
She was
you're
reading you
really
to filth. She's like, "And then you
Yes.
probably, had problems toilet training," and you're like, "How'd you know that shit?"
Right? Like, your mom fucked you up when you were in utero, and that's where it all started. And um but at that point in my life, it was like I had done probably, honestly, thousands of hours of, like, traditional counseling, if I'm being totally real. Like, that's not even
Yeah.
an exaggeration, hours a week. I was in intensive therapy and doing all the things, and in that 1 hour with this astrologer, who her name is Natha Perkins with Electra Astrology. She's out of Boulder. Shout out to Natha. But in that 1 hour with her, it was like I felt more seen, more validated, more understood than I ever had in my whole life. And in that moment, I was like, okay, there's something to this. And, looking at it through the lens of like, it's symbolism. She is not a psychic, so she says, right? And so if she can learn these symbols and learn how to translate it in such a meaningful and impactful way, I think I can do it too. And I dove in head first. She ended up becoming my mentor.
Ooh,
And
how
yeah,
cool.
yes, I studied intensely with her for about a year. And also, I studied under Stephen Forrest as well in his Forrest Center for Evolutionary Astrology. So, trained through a couple different modalities, if you will. But yeah, it's just once you kind of open that door, I feel like once the door is cracked, that's it.
Oh, yes, because were you religious in at any point growing up?
So there were undertones of it. I would say my parents were not like overly religious, but definitely used the Bible schools and things like that for childcare. Interestingly enough, I feel like it sort of skipped that generation because my dad's mom was a Jehovah's Witness, and mm,
Mm,
my sister, her and I, she was my person. She died when I was only 15, but
your
you know,
sister
I
did?
know my grandmother.
Oh, okay.
I know I'm, like, bouncing around, but
No, it's okay.
she was a Jehovah's Witness, and my sister has stronger memories of these conversations, but my grandmother used to, like, sit us down and say things like, "You need to stay away from the tarot," and all of these things that are, like, black
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah. Yes. I
Mhm.
love the term black magic. I'm like, "Oh, shut up. Shut the fuck up."
Right, and, she was a beautiful woman, but operating with only what she knew, so I think,
Exactly.
subconsciously that fear and that religious kinda dogma was implanted, and as I started to grow up, like teenage years, I had that call to, like, something bigger than myself, and so I would go to church with friends and their families
Yes.
and, like,
Yes.
always seeking something, but always, like, feeling like, "Mm, this is not it."
Just
Like,
not quite it.
"Mm-mm."
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, I totally resonate with that. I was raised very religious, but I think some of that is the area of the country I grew up in. But also, I kind of think some of us are supposed to have like more religious trauma than others. You know what I mean? Like as part of our path. Um, and I don't want to get off on this tangent, but it just made me think of this again. So I want to bring it up. Um, I have a 23-year-old, and I was talking to him about um the ability to use critical thinking skills and how I really didn't for so long.
Mm,
Um, and I think actually right this very second is probably the moment I actually just put something else together with this. But I said, well, when you were privileged enough to be able to access that part of your brain, we were in survival mode. So it
mm.
was really easy to b you know, brainwash me and a lot of people like me because when you're in survival mode, you don't even access that part of your brain. I think as I was thinking that, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it wasn't until I started healing that I just realized that it had nothing yes, it was he taught me so much, but also I was able to hear him finally because I healed, and I was using that part of my brain. Oh my god, I just so now I can completely forgive myself for how cringy I felt, for all the things I was willing to believe blindly. But it also gives me compassion for the people who are still blind because you can't access that part of your brain. Anyway, so for me personally, and I don't know which episodes you popped in on, but I was raised really religious and then didn't have any real like reckoning with it. I just kind of stopped going to church because, well, honestly, the man I was dating, my husband, didn't go to church. He was formerly Mormon, and so I just kind of
Mm,
quit going. And then the longer I didn't go, the less it made sense to want to go. Like
mm.
I started questioning things a little, not a lot, because again, my brain wasn't able to really access that part, but I was like, it may not be true that a man lived inside the belly of a well for 3 days. There was several little things because I believed it all. Really literally, I took it all very literally. It was
Yeah.
like, "No, there's no allegory here. No, this is literal, and this is the way, the
Mhm.
truth, and the light." So, there was this little kind of crisis of faith. It was a very short period of time, but where I was like, "So if you don't believe in anything, what do you believe?" Like, what
Mm,
I'm feeling a little, like, need for something, you know? So then I met someone whose friend was super into astrology, and he just kinda casually we shared charts. He was into it because he was learning from her. We shared our charts, and at that point, I knew I was a Gemini, and that was it. And he said, "Well, like, he started pointing out stuff, like, I have Neptune in the ninth in Sag, and he was
mm.
like, "Oh, my friend says, like, that people with that placement generally, like, kinda deconstruct from religion later in life, like, whatever, and, what." He's like he explained to me, like, "These are more like these are your placements because of experiences, not like it's not just characteristics, it's like an experience." And so I was like,
Yeah.
"Interesting." And as I started to learn just a smidge about my placements, I was like, "Wait a second, this is a blueprint." Like,
Mm,
I could really latch on to that because I really felt like this is a total map. Like, here's the landscaping, here's whatever. And it was during that I was coming out of a real, like, severe mental health crisis, and so I had that, and then I just started like, I had a spiritual awakening, and all of it was happening at the same time. It was overwhelming, but it was beautiful too because I was
Mhm.
like, "Okay, there's the meaning I've been, like, looking for a little
Yeah.
bit," because my experience wasn't like yours where I felt like the work that meaningful work was behind me. It was more like, what do I have what essence of mine do I have to offer the world? Because I had a very
Mm.
particular brand of I felt like my purpose was to go through shit and then teach others how I got through it. That's been my whole life, no matter what I was doing. But something shifted in there and it felt very scary and detached and like unhinged, like I didn't really know where to go with anything. And so just understanding my astrology alone, again, I'm still learning even about my own placements and all of the different things that things can mean. And I'm really bad about listening to some random astrologer and just taking their word for it. I've got pretty good discernment now. There are some things that if they say something immediately, it's a skip. But
Yeah.
I need to study more on my own of my own chart. But I don't, so
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, for me, that blueprint, it was such like, there's the hope that I've been looking for.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, all of what you said resonates so true. And for me, the thing that I love about it the most and why I think it resonated so much for me at that time in my life is like, it was a tool for really some deep self awareness. And self-awareness is literally like step 1 on the healing journey, right? When we can start to understand our patterns and understand, our conditioning and all of that, we can really start unpacking stuff. And without that self-awareness, it's really hard because we're just going along projecting our shit onto everybody else and
Yep.
completely oblivious to it. And so it is an amazing tool. Like you said, it's a map. As Stephen Forrest once said, who's a amazing evolutionary astrologer. He's one of the OGs, he started way back in the 60s before it was really cool. And he says that it's the map. What do maps do? They don't necessarily show you the terrain, but it's this kind of overarching view of like, oh, here's where we're going to come to a fork in the road, right? And so, you know, here's a path we can take. So, especially with evolutionary astrology, it's what we can really look at is the questions that somebody is likely to face in their life. It's not predictive astrology. That's a different kind of astrology. But, this idea of evolutionary astrology, where we're here as souls on a journey. So, what does that journey look like, right? And what are the gifts that we already have? Where have we already been? Where are we trying to get to? And I'm still a student of astrology. I think I will be for a lifetime. You see all these books behind me. Probably like 70% of those are all astrology books
I
because it's
love
so
that.
rich. It is so rich, right? Just like the human condition, there are so many ways
Yes.
these archetypes can manifest and everything like that. So I think we're all always students, right? That's what we're here to do, says the Sagittarius. Keep learning, keep
We're students.
unpacking.
Yeah. We are students forever. Higher learning is important.
We're on this earth school and it's a hard school.
God, it is. Sometimes it really is. But I wonder, like, were you, I, was any of it hard for you to accept at first? Because, like, before I really astrology helped me accept this, but it was a journey. I went to a medium. I'm sorry, audience. I know I've said this 1,000 times, but I went to a medium for the first time, and he was the very first person I ever heard say that we picked this experience, that like
Mm,
our soul chose who our parents were going to be, what our struggles were going to be, and we were just released to let that unfold. I was so fucking triggered by that. I remember, and
mm,
I'm really proud of myself because I could have pulled a old Melissa and just decided to be like, "Fuck you, you don't know anything," and leave and just dismiss everything he said. But he was so spot on about like, because I really just wanted to communicate with my parents, and so he was so spot on with all that that I was like, I guess. So as he was saying stuff, I could feel the triggers just happening, and I was like, I don't believe this, but I'm gonna be open to it. And
Mm.
so I was able to just, like, move past it. But then when I got into astrology, I was like, "Oh, well, then that's gotta be true now, doesn't it?" Did you have any trouble accepting that, or was it just like, "Oh, interesting?"
I mean, I think I had this sort of, and this kind of paints the picture that everybody's experience is really different, but I feel that I pretty quickly had like a knowing that that was absolute truth, and everything lined up. It was like all the generational stuff, my grandfather being a POW in World War II, and then my sort of call to military service. And when it all like clicked, I was like, oh, I understand the mission now. It's like I am here to be this generational curse breaker, to do the things that he couldn't do, right? And it all sort of made sense. And I was like, yes, I feel like I did. I did really choose these circumstances. And I understand 1,000% why that would feel very triggering for some people,
Yeah,
especially depending on life experience. But for me, it was like, yeah. Like, man, why? Why did I do that to myself, right? But
tell me
also,
about it.
you know, that knowing sort of kind of helped renew that sense of purpose within me.
Yeah. Well, something that I've been really open about is the fact that if I didn't have this belief system, I'm not sure how well I would be surviving child loss right now, because that
Mm.
has really helped me. It helped me to not even go down a path of some of those existential questions. Like, it was I hesitate to say this because I don't know, it's so dark, but, like, and I'm sure I've said it on here before, but for me personally, I just kind of believed, especially because my son died of a synthetic opioid overdose. I don't know if you know that, but
Mm.
he thought he was purchasing a real legit oxy. It was a manufactured pill and it had something in it that's 10 times more potent than fentanyl. If you look at the astrology for the day he died, it's not at all surprising. And he took 2 before he took the one that killed him. The person who sold it to
Mm.
him took one. The person he was with took one. He's the only one that died. There's so
Mm.
many things that I don't question that, because I'm like, "Okay, I kinda think this was maybe what Jake was here for." Like, his death is somebody else's awakening. Like, and all of the lessons that I learned being his mom, and
Mm.
then just like, because I feel him all the time, because he was really spiritual, thank goodness, because that's something we could connect on. And I don't know, like, we had the conversation, so I can almost hear him saying stuff sometimes, you know what I mean? But
Mm.
for me, I'm really comfortable being like, I don't know for sure. I don't need to know for sure, but it was in the plan somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, whether it was
Mm.
a quote unquote early exit, I don't know. But for me, it was like, okay, I'm really comfortable just being like, I, this was just the path. Like, okay, I have asked myself several times why the fuck I would sign up for such a hard life. But I'm like, okay, I I wanted to be a world changer, apparently, like something,
Mm.
so, like, it actually really helped me lean in, and not in a way where I'm avoiding my grief or anything like that, that's for the audience, but, like, it fuels making sure that I'm attending to my grief, like, all of the things, because I'm
Mm.
like, "Okay, I don't wanna go through this for nothing. I wanna at least get the shit I said I was gonna get out of this life. Like, I don't wanna do this again." So, like,
Yeah.
I wanna clear the karma. I wanna get the life lessons, whatever it was I was supposed to do, I wanna make sure I'm doing it. But that helps me. Like, it really does help to be like, "Okay, you know, uh, I got shit to do, I guess." I don't know. I mean, it's the worst thing ever, but
Mm.
it's also like, I signed up for this, like,
Mm.
I don't, I'm so grateful that I'm not, like, questioning a higher power and why
Hmm.
they did this to me. I have said to myself, "Wow, Melissa, you really you really fucked yourself in a lot of ways here,
Mm,
sis. Like, I don't know why
yeah.
you chose this, but okay, that's fine. And you know what's really interesting too is so I'm a Leo moon
Mm.
and uh I was devastated to learn that because I the Leo parts of my family drove me fucking insane. So I have a
Oh,
Leo
wow.
mom. She passed a long time ago, but my mom was a Leo, my younger brother's a Leo. So and I've known lots of Leos, and I got along really well with Leos outside of my family, but my family, their ego parts and the childlike
Mm.
and whatever triggered the fuck out of me. And then when I found out I was a Leo moon, I was like, "Oh, because I'm just like them. Hmm, that's cute." But I'm like, "Oh, this Leo tie is really karmic because Jake was a Leo rising." So,
Mm.
like and I'm an Aries rising, and so, my 7th house is Libra, my Pluto's there, Lilith is there, there's so much there. Jake was a Libra moon. So,
Mm.
I'm like, there's all these things that I also see the generational stuff in. I don't
Mhm.
understand all of it, but the parts that I do, again, it's helpful because it does just make me go, "Okay, well, what lesson is there to
Mm.
learn here?" And then you mentioned patterns earlier. Yes, that's the biggest thing. Even if you didn't take astrology understandings to the level of woo that I have, and it sounds like you have too, but even if you don't, if you can ask yourself those questions of about your patterns, why on earth would I continue to be in relationship with people like this? Why on earth would I continue to do this? Why is this an experience I keep having? Those were very meaningful questions for me.
Absolutely, yeah, and this idea that, we're here to evolve, and so when the hard things happen and, this is what I do, right? I sit with people in moments like that, and that's part of my Pluto and Scorpio, but also to shift that mindset out of, like, that victim mentality and especially too in the organized religion and the wounding around that comes into play too, where it's like it shifts us out of this fear-based mindset, right? Like,
Yes.
when somebody dies, it's like, "Oh my
Yes.
god, well, were they good enough to be saved by this ultimate savior?" And it's like, no, this spiritual path and astrology being a tool puts the control back into our own hands, right? We don't have to look outside for this external validation and this deep understanding that arises, right? That, when tragedy strikes, it's not the end. We're energy. We live on, our souls go on. And that deep understanding, that deep knowing that, studying the astrology, the patterns can really bring provides a lot of comfort, right? It's not to say
Mhm.
that grief is not fucking grief, right? We're
Right,
again here
right.
on this earth school, but sometimes if we can assign a little bit of meaning to certain things, it can really
Mhm.
help that process, right?
Yeah, meaning is the point of all of our existence, truly. I mean, that's the thing I've learned as humans, you have to find some sort of meaning or else what's the point in any of this? Like why put yourself through all of this if you're not going to find some sense of purpose? But I think my ideas about purpose have really shifted. One of the things as a Leo moon that I really struggle with is feeling very right about things. Um, and my ego can just really take over sometimes. So that's something I'm learning to try to I'm working on being more open and not so certain. But one of the things that have really shifted in becoming more open was shit, I totally lost my train of thought. I'm like, quit
Mercury
quantifying and
retrograde.
clarifying everything you're saying and you won't forget. Gosh, what was it? Mercury retrograde.
I know you were talking about meaning and Leo and
Oh,
needing to
purpose.
be
Okay.
right. Purpose,
Um,
yes.
I thought we each had kind of an individual divine purpose. And now I kind of think, and again, I'm open to this changing or whatever, but where I've been sitting with this recently is truly the collective purpose is to heal and learn what love really is, which is just the love you have for yourself, how to share love, how to receive love, how to be love,
Mm.
and have as much fun as you possibly can. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really just get through the hard shit so that you can figure out it doesn't have to be so hard. It really can be so much fun. And how to access joy, love, peace, abundance, that it's all there, right there, waiting for you to heal so that you can access it.
Yeah.
And you can do that at whatever stage of life. And that is great. And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And then I think we each have our own ability to interpret purpose however we want in order to contribute to the collective. And we are given individual gifts that help us be part of the collective village, like that you have a role in the village, but maybe, you can make whatever you want out of that to be your purpose. But that the purpose really is a collective one, and it is harmony, love, fun, Whenever I feel
Absolutely.
like I've, like, gone through different stages through awakening, and I remember when I hit victim consciousness and was like, "Shit, my Leo moon ass has really made myself a victim,"
Mm.
which was the exact opposite of what I thought. The
Mm.
exact opposite. Like, if you had asked me, I would have gotten angry, which should have been a clue. But if anyone implied victimness to me at all, ooh, wrath. But then I realized, like, well, honey, in all of this, nobody's showing up for me. Nobody
Yeah.
sees me, all of that. That's you being a victim. You're pushing everyone away to, confirm some story that wasn't written even by you. So, like,
Yeah.
let's rewrite that story.
And isn't that
And
what happens when we're not, like,
yes.
doing our work? And what you were speaking to is so, like, Pluto and Aquarius, right? Which I don't know what degree your moon is, but, coming up on that opposition and just this sense, and I work with women and I teach this in my classes too, that, if you're not connecting with your own inner light and your true north, your true sense of purpose, you are literally doing a disservice to the world, because the analogy I love to use is like, I don't know if anybody listening does puzzles, but you do this like massive 1,000-piece puzzle and you get to the end and the last fucking piece is gone and you're like, "What?" You're like, "I was gonna, put glue on this one and hang it on the wall,
Yes.
but it has a
Yes.
missing piece." And it's like, that is truly like what is happening in the collective if you're not showing up and doing your own work and, finding out what it is, what your unique, that's Aquarius, right? What your unique contribution is to this world at this time. Because along the lines of the evolutionary astrology, whether it triggers you or not, like, your soul chose to be here during these wild, crazy times. And so, the more people that we can get on this healing journey, this like introspective, like, I'm really looking at my stuff. I'm not burying my head in the sand. I'm willing to look at these places that feel yucky and gross and, work through that so I can show up and not be that dreaded missing piece, right?
Yes. Sometimes if one of my clients is spiritual, we'll talk spirituality or astrology in session. We were talking about Barbelt's basket the other day,
Mm,
and I was like, "Do you ever think like, wow, we chose to be alive in this time?" Like, that's so, like, these crazy major astrological themes. Okay, I do have a question if it's okay.
sure.
Okay. First of all, I'm 99% sure, and I'm just doubting myself because I don't want to say this wrong on here, but I think my moon is at 8 degrees. But let me just check.
Okay.
Let me just check. It is. Okay. My north node is also in Leo at 21 degrees.
Okay.
So I've heard mixed things about what happens when you're in that, like, nodal opposition, nodal reversal, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
I'm nervous. What is your interpretation of this time for somebody whose north node is in Leo and we're coming into the I'll try to explain that later. But I'm nervous because I've heard so many different things. I'm like, no, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, yeah, in terms of, like, feeling nervous about, like, Pluto gonna be coming for that north node or
Well, just the fact that, like, it's difficult, first of all, for me to interpret how to enter this season. When the North Node moves into Aquarius, that's gonna be in opposition to
Mm.
my North Node. So I don't know what that means for me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't love like the cookbook astrology, like looking at one thing in isolation. We really need to look at the big picture of everything. But, with that North Node in Leo and that double signature of a Leo moon, so much of your life is really built around these themes of, releasing that care of what other people think about you. And it comes back to like this really deep self love because it's like Leo wants to show up and take up space. But on the lower side of that archetype, Leo's looking for the applause, right? The applause. And so the higher, like transmuted archetype would be showing up and truly knowing on this deep, deep level that you have something worth the applause but not giving a shit if the applause ever comes, right? You're like, "I know what my
Mm,
purpose is. I know the stage that I'm supposed to be on, and it doesn't matter if I get up on that stage and they throw tomatoes at me, right? Because in my heart of hearts, that's Leo, the heart of the lion, right? In my heart of hearts, I know that this is my soul's destiny and my soul's journey. And, all this Aquarius stuff coming into the mix is only going to intensify those themes, I feel like, because again, Aquarius is like that collective energy, but it's more so like people, tribe, like groups of people. So finding the people that, really support that soul's mission for you, the people that cheer you on, right? But also in a radically honest way. And, of course, fifth house stuff, Leo stuff versus the 11th house Aquarius stuff, it is a very relational axis as well, right? Because Leo is, you know, can be seen as the ego as well. And that's very personal. That's our self, that's our sun, the most,
mhm.
personal place within us versus how we're showing up in these groups. And so it's very similar archetype in terms of like the relational access. So all of those themes are really going to be highlighted for you coming up is the sense that I'm getting. But again, going back to this understanding that it's all for your highest and greatest good. So when you're butting up against stuff that might feel kind of like icky or like, oh, I thought I squashed that. And it's like, well,
Yes. Okay, thank you for naming that because that's something we say a lot. I have another show with my friend Angie called Unquiet Soul where we touch on more of the spirituality stuff and astrology and whatever. But that's something we say a lot is like, thought I learned that lesson. I guess I got a deeper understanding today. And it's funny because I feel like I've been being prepped for the last few weeks for this upcoming energy because I had kind of a much stronger reaction than normal to a rejection at a speaking
Mm,
conference and was like, okay, I'm going to let myself feel that. Like, I'm not just going to dismiss it. But I was curious about it because I don't usually let things like that hit me in the spot that it
mm,
did. But I think part of I really felt some betrayal because I was so sure I'd be accepted because I've
mm,
spoken at that conference 2 years in a row. But that's the thing that then being rejected, I was like, "Did they not?" Like, people were saying I should be the keynote next year, like, "What?" You know what I mean?
mm,
Like, I was like, "Oh," and then I just, like, got to where I was like, "Okay, that still stings, and I can take away a lot from this experience," and I've kind of been it's helped me to refine. I got a lot of clarity because I had to sit because the rejection felt so big for, like, an hour
mm,
that I was just trying to get clarity from it, and, of course, that happened around the Capricorn full moon, but
mm,
I was like, "Okay, what can I take away from this?" And I really got serious then about leaning more into fun. So
mm,
when a proposal is getting accepted or it doesn't, neither is validation of anything. So I'm
mhm,
trying to not require that external validation, and also just have so much fun. Like,
Yeah.
go and 'cause I fucking love to talk, obviously. So, like, go give this information that you know is worthy of being given, and it is my gift to synthesize information
Mm.
and I know that my voice carries a pitch or something that is like, you know, well received. Like all I'm really aware of what my gifts are. So go and do that and have fun. That doesn't mean that it's not gonna hurt when I get rejected, but it's not gonna set me back. Whereas for, like, 5 minutes, it was, like, this whole, like, "What? No what?" And then I was like, "No, this doesn't change anything." So I've been learning how to understand that you don't have to be validated in order to be valid. That's been, like, a
Mhm.
saying that I've been saying for a couple of months now. So, feels like I was being prepped and it'll be fine. If that's the energy, I can work with that energy because I am having a lot of fun caring less. Like
Yeah.
where it's, like, just detachment from because I've learned for myself, I was really stuck in this punishment versus reward thing
Mm.
because I essentially assigned to Saturn all of the qualities that I assigned to God when I was a believer in Christianity.
Mm.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense? So I was very afraid of Saturn. Like, I was about to
Yeah.
say him. I was afraid of him. But, like, I just was like, "Oh," and so all anytime something bad happened, I would just assume Saturn was restricting and I'm serious, it was so ridiculous, but now I've really gotten into, like, okay, no, there is no punishment, there is no reward. Like, if you have fun, if you're sowing fun, you reap fun. So there's that. And then
Yeah.
everything else is like equal playing ground. When
Yeah.
good things happen or bad things happen, neither means more than the other.
Yeah, and it's, certain traditions of astrology will say, certain planets are malefic or whatever, but, I don't tend to operate under that belief. It's like nothing's really good or bad. It's just energies, it's frequencies, and it's interesting for you how like sort of that energy is already starting to manifest. You kind of have like a double signature being in Aries rising about like learning these lessons truly to take nothing personal. That's one of the four agreements, right? Take nothing personal because what can happen too with that Aries rising is that tendency towards like everything's an
It's
attack
all
on
about
me.
me.
I've got
Mhm.
to like always got to be on guard, hyper vigilant, like everything's a threat and it's a personal attack when I don't get selected for this and
Yes.
that these deep lessons that it's like it doesn't matter. Like I know my worth and value whether I get some kind of rejection letter or not and I've been, doing some similar stuff, like putting in zillions of applications for TEDx talks, and it's like,
Yes, me too.
good lord, the amount of rejection. It's like, you have to be able to learn to sit with that, right? And part of that and, well, more than part of it, it's like just the knowing that you're worthy no matter what, right? It's like
Yes.
and that's one of the gifts that astrology can offer is like, oh, well, I understand my purpose and I don't have to question when these rejections and things come. It's like, I know. And believing also in alignment, right? It's like energetic
Yep.
alignment, that spiritual alignment. Well, if I get rejected,
It
there's
wasn't meant
something
for me.
that's right. There's something much greater at play and I can't see it. I don't always know what's happening, but that trust, right? I'm trusting in whatever it is. And that's hard for a lot of people, that's you tell people to surrender and it's like insert eye roll, right? That's like
Yeah.
they're like,
Yeah, well, and
"What?"
it's hard for me too sometimes. Like one of the things that I've really anchored into is human first. Like you chose the human experience, so you have to be a human first. So I will really
Mm.
I'll take it as far as it needs to go. It's nowhere near a rabbit hole that it used to be. But I'm like, that's why I'm being very intentional about saying, like, there's still a little bit of a sting to my pride that I got rejected. Okay, like, it still doesn't feel great. It's like a nano percentage now, but it's there, and so I wanna be really open and honest about that because I am a human and I'm allowed to feel that, and I got over it pretty quickly because I really I sat there, not that day, but a day that I was just, like, feeling really desperate for just relief, and part of where I stepped into it, it really felt physical, like, just like I, maybe jumped timelines, like, I don't know, but it felt very shifted after this realization. I was like, "You know what? I am always saying we are born with all of our worth and value just
Mhm.
because, like, we are, and I have to understand what that actually means, and it is I've already earned anything I fucking want.
Mhm.
We don't there's nothing left for me to do to earn anything. So everything I'm doing is not about earning, it's not about proving to any benefic force that may be out there, like, to
Yeah.
anything that I'm worthy or that I deserve anything. And that was a huge distinction for me because in terms of manifesting and other things, I really was like trying to prove to fucking Saturn that, I mean, and that is really what it was boiling down to. I mean, it took a little bit to see it, but that is what it was. I'm trying to prove like I'm I'm open, I'm understanding, I energetically aligned for receiving all the things, and it was like, I felt the alignment click in whenever I was like, "This isn't about earning
Yeah.
anything." Like,
Yeah.
I'm still learning, so that's why I'm having these experiences. I signed up for a lot of learning, and I'm gonna keep learning, and that doesn't mean that I have to have, like, super shitty experiences, like,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And
And
that
coming
I
into
can
that
get whatever
worth.
I want.
Yeah, and I think for so many of us, right, it's about the unlearning that has to happen too to understand that inherently we are worthy. Just because we exist, we're worthy, but so much conditioning comes in along the way that, it's like it's truly something that we have to peel back all that conditioning and do this like deep process of unlearning all the bullshit that we were taught
Yes.
that, especially as women, right? It's like, oh, well, I have to show up and do the things and please everybody. And it's like, no, like there's so many parts that really have to die away to, I feel like, really embody that place of understanding, like, nope, inherently I am worthy.
Yes, yeah. Well, because gosh, I used to say, like, I deconstructed. I It's gonna be a lifetime of deconstructing from that programming. Because from birth to about 27, I was receiving programming about
Mm,
how I was born very unworthy, that there was
mm,
nothing I could do to be worthy of God's love. That was ingrained in me, that it wasn't
mm,
about what you do, it was just about begging for Him to save you. So
mhm.
that was it. I mean, I'm putting it really simplified and it was a little rude, but like that is what I was taught. So it, you know, it hasn't been that many years of unlearning that. So every time it comes up, I'll think, "Oh my gosh, I thought I already learned that." And then I'll find some other way where I'm like, "Did I feel unworthy just now? What is that?" And the
Right?
taking up space thing has been really big for me because I didn't
Mm,
even realize how afraid I was. I didn't understand all of the masks I was wearing. I didn't understand how afraid to be vulnerable I was. I
mm,
thought I was vulnerable. So, like, I didn't realize how much of me I was not sharing with literally anyone. And
yeah.
then just that Leo curse of like craving to be seen and understood so badly, and yet it being your biggest fear at the exact same time. Like, it was just,
Yeah.
oh, it was so scary. It was so scary. And I think just recently, I don't feel as much of, like, a physical ache every time I go to share something vulnerable, like, because it would stop me, like, I would felt like someone hit me in the stomach, not, like, punched, but just, like, a little, like,
Mm,
slap you on the stomach right before I would say something kinda vulnerable, and I'd be like, "Oh, I'm scared to say this, but Imma say it," and so that's something that the podcast has really afforded me, is having those conversations where I can just say whatever because I don't know, it just feels totally different in conversation than it
Yeah.
is like I'm not as good about in real time when I'm going through something saying to someone, I'm experiencing this and here's how you can support me. Because truly, I'd much rather intellectualize and keep it to myself and believe that you just don't wanna show up for me. Those are much
Yeah.
easier than saying, "This is what I need. Please show up
Yeah.
for me." You know, like,
Yeah.
that's it's so hard for me, damn it.
And you've got to give yourself grace, right? If you've got a Leo North node, that would suggest that these are things that your soul is evolving towards. It's like you haven't mastered these things yet, and you know what you're speaking to about the vulnerability piece too ties into so much of the nervous system stuff, right? It's like when we're unhealed, when we're
Mhm.
still carrying around these you know, transmuted wounds, if you will, our body is not concerned with vulnerability, right? Vulnerability
Right.
can actually look like a threat. And so until we start healing, we really can't. I mean, physiologically, right? My background is also as a nurse practitioner. And so I love kind of leaning into where science and spirit meet as well. And yeah, if you're operating from this state of nervous system dysregulation, you really cannot be vulnerable because your body doesn't know if you're being chased by a tiger or if the threat is just continuous, dysregulation. But it's like vulnerability is not top priority. And so until we start to heal, no matter what your astrology is, right? It's really hard to live and lead from a heart centered place, right?
Yeah, because 'cause you're always detecting the threat.
Mhm. Yep,
Always.
scanning. Yep, something's a threat, right? The body is very intelligent, but again, it doesn't know that, oh, the threat has passed or the tiger's not actually chasing me right now. And so, you know, this is where the healing work is so deep, right? And I always preach on my soapbox, like, even before I start working with people, they are so gung ho to like, let's dive into the astrology. And it's like, wait, no, we need to take a time out. We need to spend 2 or 3 sessions, like, really trying to get you in a place to even receive this information where it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like one more threat, right? Like, where it's just, like, completely
Yes.
catching you off guard. So it's that's
Yes. Well, because that's what people might miss about, like, nervous system dysregulation kind of in general is there's a disconnect between you and your body when you live in that state, and you don't even realize all the physical responses that you will have. I only really since Jake died is really the first I've really noticed my physical responses
Mm,
to where, like, I will all of a sudden feel like my stomach just took a giant, like, roll inside like,
mm,
flip-flopped inside of me, like I was on a roller coaster or a full body zap, like, just
mm.
it's so weird, but it actually happens all the time, and I was never even noticing, and so when astrological themes do this to me a lot, I have to be careful about which astrologers I even follow on TikTok because any of the fear-mongering ones, they're out because
Yep.
I can't handle it. My nervous system was, like, literally shocking me, was like, "Zzz, zzz," because it would come and it would make me so afraid, like, "Oh, this new as astrological theme is coming." I'd be like, like just
Yeah, yeah.
freaking out.
Good. Yeah, that's not what it's about. I always tell people, and there's so much of that, right? That is not the type of astrology I practice. Like, if you leave an astrology reading feeling anything less than empowered, they were not speaking your language, honey. Like, it is not
Mhm.
about fear. It's not about, this. Like, it should be a tool of empowerment, right? And so
Yes.
I'm the same way. Like, and it's interesting because my husband, he loves Hellenistic astrology, which is like the more predictive stuff. And sometimes he'll like turn it on in the car and I'll be like, no, not today, honey. Like, I don't want to hear this shit right now.
I
Like,
cannot. Exactly. Exactly. I'm so serious, like, I I get really freaked out. Like, I mean, I will have to like literally just like hug myself and rock back and forth for a minute because like there are certain pieces of information that are so fucking scary for me. And so I just know, oh, I just got really dysregulated. Like I gotta go take care
Mhm.
of myself really quick. But if you don't know those things, if you don't have the tools to regulate, if you don't even know what it feels like to be dysregulated, all this is happening on autopilot and someone gives you this information. Like I wonder even one of Jake's friends has been reaching out this week and
Mm.
um I had her give me her information last night and I was looking at her chart. It was interesting. And so I was asking her questions because I was like, I'm still learning. So these are things I'm wondering about from seeing your chart. And um, it was really cool to see her have the same reaction I have had to stuff,
Mm.
which is, oh, there's a reason.
Mm.
And I'm not crazy. And I can take this information and change my circumstances. Like, I don't have
Mm.
to be stuck. This isn't a fixed state of being. And that was the biggest gift that astrology, spirituality, all of it has given me is nothing is fixed. Like, I don't
Mhm.
have to be in any state at any time. I can just be and
Yeah.
allow things to happen the way they're going to happen and respond. I don't have to try to
Mhm.
predict every fucking thing that's going to happen, which if you've had a lot of trauma, that's something that your brain's going to want to do. I mean, it's going to want to do that anyway because that's literally how it operates, but if you've
Yeah,
had a lot of trauma, it needs
that's
it for
yeah,
survival.
that's part of, like, the fight mechanism, right? When we talk about nervous system dysregulation, like, if you're stuck in fight or flight, that fight is, like, control. Like, if
Yes.
I can control things, it's just gonna be okay, and that
Right, and how can you control it
predictability.
if you can't know it's coming? Hello? So you have to sit around and think about how it's gonna happen and predict the worst case scenarios at all times.
Yeah,
Ooh, I
yeah,
was
I
bad about
know.
that. I was bad. Like, catastrophe at all turns. And then, like, so smugly, like, "I fucking knew. I told you. I told you. I told you." And it was like, "Well, how much of that did you, like, will into existence, sis?" Like, like, all for instance, that's why I became so passionate about talking about our subconscious motivators because I realized how disconnected I was from so many people based off of fucking lie that I felt was so
Mm,
true for so many years, which is like people don't want to show up or, just those feelings of isolation and whatever. And learning like, oh, I've isolated the shit out of myself actually. Oh, okay, my bad. Like
yeah,
I it looked like irritation or agitation when they didn't show up correctly.
mm,
Like,
yeah.
what?
And what a gift. Now, what a gift to understand that pattern within yourself, right? It's like I could not imagine going back to a place of like minimal to no self-awareness. It's just,
Right.
coming so I don't want to say full circle on the journey because it's like never ending, right? It's not linear, but doing enough of this deep healing work, it's like I don't ever want to go back to that horrible place where, I'm projecting all this onto people and thinking I'm the victim. And,
Yes.
it's not about like spiritual bypassing by any means, but to be able to look at things and see it clearly for what it is, right? Like, and then have some humility about it. Like, oh, there's my old pattern of avoidance again. Like, damn.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, the avoidant
Here.
pattern. Yes. Well, and even this just happened either last night or first thing, I think it was last night. I was laying there thinking about something that I had been thinking about for about 3 days, and then it finally clicked and I go, "Oh, you were taking that personally. Like, why did you take that?" I didn't even realize I was taking it personally. But it took me 3 days of being stuck in a rabbit hole of intellectualization before I understood that's what I was doing. And I was like, "Boy, that pattern's just going to keep coming up, isn't it?" And I literally, the second I realized, "Oh, you took that personally, like you're making this about you. You know damn well this person is projecting. That is like
Mhm.
they're giving you a window to their shit by the shit that they're saying to you right now." So, take that gift of information that they've given you. I now understand you a little bit better because you just told me so much about you by I felt like they were accusing, but that's fine. But, like, it was like, "Oh, okay, now I kinda get what you're doing here, so, yeah, that's not a me issue." Like like
Yeah, yeah,
and, without getting into specifics, it's not like, I'm not taking account it was something that was a constructive criticism, which I can handle, but it was not done in a way that felt safe for me, and so I was
yeah,
like, "Huh." But it really wasn't about me. It really wasn't,
yeah.
and that's where I was so confused, and I was like, "Huh, why is that not landing? What am I missing here?" And then I realized, like, "Oh, they're talking about themselves. Okay, that makes sense.
Mm.
That makes sense."
You're like,
But
"Good, I can move along now."
yeah, it really was. It was like release, kinda like me talking to you about that thing with my, oldest, like, being like, "Oh, it's because I started healing. That's why I could
Mhm.
access that critical thinking part of my brain. Oh, I forgive you, Melissa. Okay, moving on." Because that's something every time he'll bring up shit that I taught him as a child, I'm like bracing, like, covering my ears, like, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I said that. Like, I can't believe I said that." And he's way more forgiving of me than, like, sometimes I am of myself about that stuff because I'm like,
Yeah.
"That's so embarrassing that I thought that was true."
You're like, "Oh, but it's true, right?" It's like you're doing the best you can with the operating system you're running off of and, until somebody makes a conscious choice to heal because I feel like it is a conscious choice, right?
Mhm.
It's like evolve or kind of stay here in this place of suffering forever and yeah, there's so much self-compassion that has to come into that and I'm raising 3 little ones right now, and it's like, hell, am I doing it perfectly? Like, absolutely not, because, we're giving them what we think we would have needed, but they're also their own little unique souls, and so we're gonna mess it up somewhere along the way, and just that
And I think we're
compassion,
supposed
right?
to. We're supposed to mess
Yes.
some things up. What else are they gonna learn from? Like, that's the way I get through my mistakes a lot of times is like, they signed up for this.
Yeah.
Like, they
Right?
picked me as their mom, so they got what they got. Sorry. Like,
Yeah, they chose the me for some unknown reason, but here we go.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, my daughter's a Scorpio moon, so
Oh, wow.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I'm sorry." So I'm always like, "It's okay if you tell me that. You're safe to tell me that." Like,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah,
Like,
that
always. I'm like, "I wasn't asking you that to catch you doing something. I was asking so you'd know you could talk about it if you wanted to."
yeah,
Like,
that
always.
brutal
But I
honesty.
yes. Oh my god. For instance, if I get my nails colored yellow, she's always like, "Those are pee-pee nails." She's 12. But she would say this when she was, like, 9. She'd be like, "That looks like pee-pee on your nails. Why are you wearing yellow nails?" And she's just like some things, no problem saying, and then other things, she's so intensely private,
Mhm.
like scary almost. I'm like, "Okay, sis, what I'm sorry
Yeah,
I fucked
it's a
you up." Okay.
Uh,
So, really quickly, if we were to summarize, like, to make anything actionable for the audience today, how can astrology be a gift to their lives and be a tool in their healing?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, astrology is a tool for self-awareness, right? It can shift us out of this mentality of like, well, that's just the way I am, and there's nothing I can do or change about it, to a place of embodied curiosity, these questions of like, what else is possible? What am I here on this planet for? What is my unique piece of this puzzle? Not just for my own healing, but for the collective healing. And so again, self-awareness truly is safety in the body, step 1. Then we can move into some of this deeper patterning work in terms of what are these unconscious patterns that keep showing up and putting some meaning to that. So, it's just an amazing tool and I encourage everybody, especially my skeptics who are usually have a lot of Virgo, come on, check it out. You never know, right? It's like, what's it going to hurt?
Yeah, exactly. What's it gonna hurt? We're not trying to convince you, but you might convince yourself.
Exactly. I'm not here to, try to tell anybody what to do, but I can only speak for what I know is true for me, and if it's able to help even one person, then I feel like it's worth it, right? It's worth being on these soapboxes and talking about safety in the body and, the self-awareness and the healing journey and yeah, cuz it can be ugly sometimes and we all need a little divine support.
Oh, isn't that the truth? Yeah, and I like the way you said, you touched on something we've been talking a lot about, which is like nothing is fixed, and you can see maybe why things have been the way they've been, but then also how to shift them and not be that anymore. And that I love the idea that in every little signature in your astrology, there's this light side and shadow side, and how like on the lower end it's this and the higher end it's this. And I recognized so much of myself when learning that and going, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it gives you that great, like, starting point,
Mhm.
like, we've been talking a lot, especially on the other show, about how when you are using GPS, it has to have your starting location to calculate where you're going,
Mhm.
and getting that self-awareness and seeing, like, the patterns you've been stuck in. Freedom! You get so much freedom in that because you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I do that, and I don't have to continue doing that. I can release that part of me.
Absolutely.
It's safe to. In fact, I'm supposed to. So here we go,"
Yes.
you know?
I love that. Yeah, liberate yourself from what no longer serves, right? Suffering and all these other things. It's like nobody has
Yes.
to stay stuck there. You really don't have to.
Yes. Exactly. Well, tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, so I am Double Libra Coaching on Instagram, and my website is doublelibraastrology.com. Head to the website, get on the mailing list. I've got a book coming out soon. So if
Oh,
you jump,
fun.
yeah, we could talk for hours about that too. But yes, jump on the mailing list so you don't miss any updates and please stay in touch.
Why double Libra?
I know people are like, but you're a double Sag. It's my son, the littlest one. He was born at the Libra new moon. So he's my double Libra and he's a Taurus rising. So he's completely Venus ruled. Um, but he has Mars and Aries. So he's still very spicy. See, this is why astrology is like so rich. You can't just look at any one signature, but
Uh-huh.
he's my double Libra.
Wow, Jake's Venus was in Aries. How funny. Okay, I will make sure that I include all of that in the show notes. I appreciate you being here so much. I've loved this conversation. I am going to press stop if you'll hang out for 1 sec.
Sure.
Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share. Emotionally